in from. Welcome to the Dani and Paul show, where we will talk about everything from personal development to business to politics and whatever you decide you want to bring to us to chat about. We are glad and welcome you to do so. I would like to introduce you to my co-host Paul as I try to fix my camera just a bit. Paul, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a great day. Nice and sunny here in Minnesota. No smoke in the air. We're doing well.
Good, good. Awesome. We're talking today about balancing work and personal life. Is that kind of where we're starting off
I
today?
think that's where we're going today. I think that's a great start for the. Oh, look at that! The whole time pre-show, we're like, why isn't our names popping up? And as soon as we get the show started, the
Uh,
names pop up. That's
yes.
awesome. Yes, that's what we're talking about today.
Great. Awesome. Well, do you want to kick us off or shall I?
Well, I think you could start off today with this is kind of more in your area of play. So I'll let you take the headline and I'll follow up.
Great, great. A lot of my well, not even just my clients but the world talks about, gosh, how to balance work and life. How do I balance my personal life and my work life, and especially in today's fast paced, world of technology. um, and what I share with people, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say, Paul, but what I share with people is, if you're doing what you love, that's the only time that you have work life balance together. Um, Otherwise, it goes back to time blocking. But I am a big proponent of, if you're doing what you love, if you like, I love what I do. I love coaching and consulting with executives and professionals and businesses. I love it. It gets me out of bed every morning and very excited about what's going on today. How can I serve my community today? And that um, makes it so, like, if I'm working at 8 p.m. at night, or my client can only meet on a Saturday morning, that's cool. I don't mind, because it feeds my soul. And if it feeds my soul, then that's going to also help me in my personal life show up just as excited in my personal life and be present with my family and my friends when I'm spending time with them. That's kind of my big picture. I can get a little bit more granular, but what do you say, Paul?
Well, I think a lot of my clients, and over the years, I've struggled with it myself, work-life balance, because it's not my balance. I would agree with you, but it is my spouse's balance, my kids' balance, all of those other things that I'm accountable to and have to be there for. And the biggest problem, and it's interesting that we're having this conversation, because I had a long conversation with a couple of people this week, kind of wrapped around this. Struggling to a friend who's got a new girlfriend after her second marriage, all that. He's like, I don't want to screw this one up. What do I do? I'm now screwed up a couple of marriages and a couple the same way. Um, it's not just about being there. It's about being present when you are there. So that feeds a lot into the time blocking. Okay, getting things out of the way so that you've gotten something accomplished. And then when you are with your spouse or your kids, you're present of mind in the time, because you're not worrying about the stuff that you didn't get done. And it's really key. I have a friend of mine who's in Spain right now. He just did the running of the bulls. And this is literally the conversation we had, because he's not only a friend, he is a client. And he's doing 2 weeks in Spain, running with the bulls. He's from Barcelona. He's hanging out with family. He lives in France. His business is in France. And he's taking those lucky French, they get 4 weeks off a year as opposed to our dwindling 2 weeks. And he's taking that time. And he said, one of the biggest problems I got with this whole long 3-week trip is that I'm out here with my kids and my wife. I'm with my in-laws. I'm with my mom. And like every time I try to sit down to do work, somebody bangs at the door and dishevels what I'm doing. Or they need something, or I lost an iPhone, or I can't find my my AirPods, or so and so just showed up and wants to go have a couple of drinks. He's like, I can't get anything done. I mean, I want to, and then I'm spending all day thinking about what I haven't gotten done, and my son's saying something to me, and I don't hear it. Ask me a question, I don't hear it. So the advice I gave him for the situation he's in right now, I said, well, you're hanging out there. There's probably a nice little coffee shop. Block your time. Block the time that you're going to do the work. Tell your family you're going to disappear for 2 hours. Go do the work. Don't give them access to you so that you can go get something done. And then when you're done, be done. Put it away and be present of mind when you're with your family. So it goes both ways. I mean, that's really what we're talking about, work-life balance. We're talking about the fact that you've made commitments, right? You've not only committed to your business, you've committed to your clients, you've committed to your boss, you've committed to your job, you've committed to your wife, you've committed to your kids, and all of those are equally important. So how do I block my time so that each and every one of them gets 100% delivery from what I've committed to? And that's the real question, right?
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. And I just had a client yesterday as well who told me, my husband and my daughter keep coming into my office. And so then I'm not able to get done the things that I want to get done, or I feel guilty that I need to be out there with them. And I said, it is time to have a sit down with the family and say, this is what mommy's doing for the 90 days. Mommy's going all out to get this done. We get to, have the family behind us. And I'm going to put a note on my door that for, a 2-hour block that says, here's what I am, no knocking, no nothing. Go ask daddy, go, do that. So agreed, because it is the worst. And thank you for bringing that to my attention, because I feel that I'm very present with whomever I'm with at each time. But I think that is what affects mental health. That is what causes anxiety and stress, is when you're sitting down with somebody that you want to be present with, but you're thinking about work. Or then you're at work and then you're thinking about, gosh, I should have been present with that person. So absolutely agree with you 100% there. So what are some other ways besides time blocking, which we are obviously big proponents of, because we talked about it in the first one, the second episode, and now the third.
Didn't mean to talk about it in the third, but it just kind of it just rolls both ways. It's I've done everything I can to support my family when I'm working. Like, the kids are off for summer vacation. My office is at home. I'm like, oh God, here we go. And sometimes you can't control it. You can't. They're going to be loud. We have 2 dogs. They're going to be barking, all that stuff. All of a sudden you'll see me do a podcast or a video from my car. There's a reason. I'm sitting on the edge of a lake, looking out over the lake and the trees as I'm working in my car, because the seat's just as comfortable. And all of a sudden I've isolated myself. So number one is you commit to getting something done. You may have to reroute how you do it to get it done anyway. Mm-hmm. Okay. You just have contingencies, be wrapped around it. The other thing that's just as important, it's, I had a client ask me, and this happened today, we started talking about his time blocking, because this seems to be a heavy. He's like, well, I don't, I block time, but then everybody's calling me, and I'm got sales going on and all this stuff. And I said, do you have an assistant? And he said, well, yeah. I said, okay. So I understand that you feel you need to be the one to talk to everybody that calls right away, but there's a better way to do it. Utilize your assistant. Let it go to voicemail. Have it to your assistant right away. Have her call right back and say, Boss is busy right now. He wants me to call you back to get the details. And when he calls you this afternoon, he'll give you the answers you're looking for. All right. I've just eliminated probably 15 to 30 minutes of the back and forth. How's your kid doing? You know, all the stuff that's not the actual detailed information that you need to do something for somebody. It's all that superfluous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've cut a 20-minute call down to about 2.5 minutes. I've got time to go research the answers. I can put that into my time blocking, calling customers, calling prospects, right? Then I've got the information I need. I call them and I can make it a short phone call. Half the time I can make it a text because they just wanted some little piece of information. But each of those calls generally take 15 to 20 minutes. I've now cut it down to 2.5 minutes. And it's just like taking it off of you. And same thing goes for like the weekends. We were talking about this and I go, you know, one of the things I do, I don't pick up the phone on the weekends unless somebody is dying, because my commitment is to my wife. That's her time with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And nobody's going to break that unless there's a grave conditions involved.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course I will call. I'll check the message, but if one of my clients texts me on the weekend and said, understand if this is not an emergency, I'm probably not going to read this until Monday. By the way, I don't send that until Monday. I'm kind of trying to train them not to call me on the weekends if it's not important. Mm-hmm. So the cool thing, let's talk about results. The result is my wife is like completely cool with me. Okay. I don't have issues, because if she's got something she wants to do or we plan for the weekend, my phone's in the car. I don't even carry it with me. There's nobody that needs to get in touch with me on the weekend. So I'm 100% committed to her. Vice versa is after the weekend's over, I haven't been in an argument about not spending enough time. I haven't been in any of these arguments. So my mind is 100% on work. So it's really what's the word I'm looking for? A cathartic reunion, or a union with everything around me. It's just, everything's got its place, and I feel very centered because of it. Hope that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I cannot wait to meet your wife someday, because she is just sounds like a super wonderful human like yourself. So I'm excited. I'm very excited to meet her at some point. And to your point about having the assistant or the secretary take those notes and get those questions down, I want to add that 25% of the time, the client ends up answering their own question.
Yeah.
So then which is better for everybody, because the world needs more problem solvers.
Or less problems.
Touche. Absolutely. Is there any other anything else you would like to just share on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it translates into what are you doing with your time, right? So we talked about time blocking, but what are you actually doing with your time? There's an equation of effort versus income, something I taught a long time ago for sales, because you had guys going after whales and some guys only go after the small stuff, and you kind of had to figure out a balance between it. But it's effort versus income. I want to put the least of effort in to get the most income. That doesn't mean I want to be lazy. That means I want to expand the income with little inputs as opposed to big inputs, right? So it translates itself into, am I doing the right thing with my time? Okay. And I'll give you an example. I had a client this week who wants to put together some sales funnels and all that. He's he was a big executive at a major firm. He's a really solid guy, and business, very high level, MBA, all that stuff. And he got on the call and we talked about sales funnels, except he was doing them himself. He was programming. And I said, how much is your time worth an hour? And he goes, well, I don't know. And I said, well, what's your product worth? He was like, well, about 2 grand. And I said, so if you spend an hour selling your product and you sell it, your time's worth $2,000 an hour. And he goes, yeah, that's right. I said, are you willing to pay $2,000 an hour to get your landing pages up? And he's like, no way. And I said, yeah. So are you willing to spend $60 an hour to get your landing pages up? It's like, yeah. I said, should be hiring out for that. You're spending 10, 12 hours trying to figure all this stuff out. And you are telling me you don't have time to do things on the sales side or, on the marketing side, just with the tech. And he just thought about it, kind of melted. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to hire this out tomorrow. Self skills assessment is all about making sure that you're hiring to fit A, your weaknesses, B, the things that you really don't want to do, and C, the things you absolutely shouldn't be doing, right? The things you shouldn't be doing. I should not be writing scripts, right? I've got a script writer for that. I should not be programming websites. There are people that do that on a daily basis that will get it done 20 times faster than I am at truly a third of the cost. So I need to hire out. I need employees. And that kind of gets us into the next thing we want to talk about is really how difficult is it finding employees right now? It's insane. I think every one of my clients is having problems finding the right people. So.
And do you think that that's because they haven't taken the time to prioritize what it is that they need in an employee? Or is it that they're just not getting the quality?
So both of those things are a matter of perspective.
Yes.
Right. I would say that probably most of them, and we just talked about that, haven't done a skills assessment on themselves and on the positions that they need. They don't have clear descriptions and clear outcomes for what that employee is there to do. I spent a lot of time talking about outcomes of hiring an employee and what you want the deliverable to be from each employee so that you can put a process together for that employee and be able to train them in. The second biggest thing is people generally hire to hire. So they are trying to fill a spot, but they're not trying to fill a business. And what I mean by that is, as an owner of a business, I need to have a vision for my business. I have a set of values for my business. And understanding my vision and my values clearly for myself gives me the optics to look at employees, because I want employees that align with those visions and values. Now, I will absolutely stand behind this. Probably 85 to 90% of businesses today are not clear about what their vision and values are. So hiring the right person is very difficult, because all I can ask about is what's on their resume and what job functions they can. But I can't ask about the person in a good way, because I have no idea who I am as a company to ask questions whether they align with that. And that's why turnover is so high in smaller businesses. There's very little long-term vision for that employee, and it's just a job. And in today's marketplace, in today's job marketplace, as it's a buyer's market, and this generation needs to feel some alignment with what the business does, who the business is, and who the business impacts. So, and that's a journey in itself.
Agreed. And attrition, I don't think businesses understand how expensive attrition is. So hiring the right people to your values, your ethics, knowing what your vision is, knowing that you can then, because it is a two-way street. Like if you're interviewing me, I am interviewing you for a job. hopefully the people coming through the door aren't just looking to check a box. They're looking to succeed in this vision for big
Yeah.
impact, right?
Yeah.
And so when you take time to, for recruiting, and maybe you have different people on the team interview them, and then they go through assessment tests. And I worked in tech, so this is everything that we did. Went through assessment testing, and then the onboarding series. All that is expensive. So if the employee leaves in 6 months, they weren't even actually up to speed. You're starting over. You just lost. You just flushed all that. That was my toilet sound.
Okay. You must have different toilets out there in Portland than we have here. They definitely don't sound like that here.
But yeah, they're just flushing money down the toilet. And then yes, I during the what big the first crash that we went through back in, what was that, 92, 90, no, 4.
God,
I think
it was 94.
Yeah, I think it was 94. I was the first employee, and I was responsible for hiring everybody after. And um, it blew my mind because all these amazing resumes would come through because, we had Stanford people. We were right by Stanford. Our founders were Stanford grads. And we would have a job description. And then we did the best that we could. So if they're watching, like, we did the best that we could at the time with the knowledge that we had. Amen. Okay. But, oh, well, that person has half of that job description. And then let's hire this other person with half that has the other half of the job description. You know what? We went under.
Mhm.
Shocker.
That's called hiring too much weight. No buoyancy left.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, we are either not writing our job descriptions for what we want in a person, or we need to hire part-time people, or I don't know, but like this is not sustainable. We are going to collapse, and we ended up collapsing. But yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty common in the tech industry back at that time.
Mhm.
Extremely high burn rates, over hiring, and truly a lack of leadership at the time. It was difficult, and it's. I mean, we're human. We're the human species. We're evolving as we go, and I consider that the the toddler period of the tech industry, right?
Mhm.
We were all toddlers. We were
Yeah.
running around going, wow, this is really great stuff. Is that thing hot? I don't know what hot is. Let's go touch it.
Yeah.
And we burned our hands quite often in the industry.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's why we're where we're at today, and we've learned what we've learned. I mean, I wouldn't have the experience I have if I didn't grow up in that industry and was part of making all of those mistakes.
Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting. So, based on what you did back then, because we both come from the same industry,
Mhm.
I was never in HR, but I was hired quite a few times. So, and I went through a lot of testing over the
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
Um, and we'll set that story apart to the side. There's an interesting story there on the testing part, but someday when it's a better subject. If you were to start today,
Mhm.
new startup company,
Mhm.
you've got some leadership in place, you've got some sales in place, of course your tech staff's in place because you're developing product, and you need to hire, say, let's call it a sales engineer. I don't even know if that's a term anymore, but
Mhm.
what's
Mhm.
the perfect hiring process from your perspective?
Wow, the
Wow.
hiring practice. Holy smokes. Um, I would One is to know what it is that you're looking for. Um, so that you can, all these resumes that come across your desk, you can, yep, nope, if need to. Uh, you know, y- when you're sitting, have a hiring process so that the person that you're recruiting through the funnel is comfortable and knows that you do have a process, which gives them some comfort, knowing that you're legit. Um, Gosh, a sales engineer is a special breed and special to my heart for sure, as well. So it's funny that you brought that up because a sales engineer is really the person who goes into, just for those who may not know, and maybe we're speaking differently, we'll find out, that a sales engineer is the person that typically goes in with the salesperson, talks with a customer, and then helps the customer and the tech team kind of work together, somewhat of the liaison between the two. And I always hired a sales engineer that would also somewhat keep the salesperson in check, just a little, let them sell something that's not that we can't do. Like, don't tell the customer no, but like, let's talk about it before they say, yeah, we can do that, no problem, right? Because sometimes salespeople get, we can do that. But anyways, I regress. So have a sales process, do have them meet with the team, have them give a demo, because that's usually sales engineer sometimes gives demos as well. So if they've done it in the past, give me a demo of what you've done in the past. So I want to see how they react to questions, how they just kind of liaise with the other side. And are they coachable? Are they hungry? Do they fit my culture? I mean, culture is a big one, and a culture fit goes back to vision. As Paul said earlier, the company's values. Ask hard questions at the beginning. It's been a while, Paul, since I've put.
I threw that at you, didn't I?
You really did, and I feel that I'm rambling there. So
no, you're doing. I mean, ultimately, it works back to, and everything you said is like 100% on. The main step for hiring is defining the outcomes and defining the criterion that you're hiring on. Mm-hmm. That from all other things does that. I mean, that is the dirt that all things grow from. If you aren't clear on that, you shouldn't make a hire. If you're not clear on what you need to accomplish, it's hard to define the skill set that's going to do that. And so many people go, oh, I need an administrative assistant. Mm-hmm. Okay, but what does that mean? What is an administrative assistant to you? Okay, I mean, it could be QuickBooks, it could be doing social media. I hear hire a VA for what? You guys are defining these poor people are not an expert in everything. They're very defined in what they know about, and you have to pay it. A VA is a VA. They're not a jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. You hire a VA specifically for social media. You hire a VA specifically for accounting. To your point, where they were doing it the wrong way in Silicon Valley, because they people do it the right way now. I need 10 hours of bookkeeping, so I'm going to hire this VA for bookkeeping. And I need probably 20 hours of marketing on a weekly basis, so I'm going to go hire this VA for marketing to get things started. And then I need to know my exit strategy. Okay, at what level, what point of revenue does that become from being subcontracted to bringing in house? At what price point does it start making sense to bring these people on board so that they can grow with the company? Mm-hmm. So these are questions you have to ask yourself. Everybody goes, well, I don't know if I can afford it, but that's the wrong perspective. Mm-hmm. The perspective is when I can afford it, because I have a good business plan, and I know that if everything I've planned for hits, I'm going to need that person in 3 months or 6 months or whatever. I've worked the revenue backwards because I like to call it stair steps, right? Each hire, each revenue platform is a step to grow to the next one. So I need to understand how many stairs it is to get to the top. And then every time I hit a stair, what I need to do to plan for the next stair. And And the great thing about today that you couldn't do back when we started is you can pull from here and you can pull from there, and you get a little bit done by this person, a little bit done by that person, but you don't have to take on the huge load of a payroll, of a full payroll and benefits and all that. But understand that your business hits, $1 million. Let's use $1 million as a nice. You're at a break point, and that break point is going to be people, or it's going to be process. So I'm going to have to put in technology, or I'm going to have to hire more people to be able to deliver the services to the more people that I've brought in and that I'm charging for. I want to know that what those points are ahead of time. I don't want to experience them and then go, oh, what do I do now? So I could pull myself out of my business, right? Because we all have a habit of getting in our business, and we can't see where the car's going.
Yeah.
We're trying to drive from the engine compartment, okay? And we can't see where the car's going. So we got to pull out Google Maps and get up above at 30,000 feet and go, oh yeah, it's going down this road. And there's the next town I'm going to hit. And there's the town after that. Oh, I'm going to need gas at this town because I'm going to be almost out of gas. So I need to add money, or money being gas. I need to add money to the situation to make it to the next stop, or I need to add people to the situation, or technology to the situation. Understanding that having the vision, having the values gives us a good platform to determine who we need to hire and when we need to hire them.
Yeah.
Which also makes it, as you're interviewing people and you can tell that story, right? You have this plan and you can tell that story and how you see them in that story. You're going to start getting the right people, because they either, oh, that doesn't sound good to me, I really don't want to be part of something like that. Or you're going to get that person who it resonates with, oh my God, that's exciting, right? I'm excited. I want to work for you. There's a big, the pandemic really showed this up really heavily. I'm sorry to jump into the pandemic real quick, but it really showed up because you had companies out there that had to dump people during the pandemic and after the pandemic, after the effects of the pandemic. And then you had some companies who had a bunch of people raising their hands saying, I'll take a cut in pay to stay with the company. A lot of people go, oh, that's about having income at the time. No, that's about commitment to what the company is doing and the belief in the company. So that's the end result of proper hiring.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. All very well said. And by having a plan, you're setting up your future hires for success. And that is, to me, means so much. Is let's set our people up for success, right?
Absolutely.
Let's stretch them, because we all need to grow, because if we're not growing, we're dying. But let's set them up for success. Everything we can do on our side as an employer, and then give them that platform to be able to, step up those stairs, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So excellent. Well, if anybody else has questions or wants to jump in, we've got the chat that's wide open, and we're just going to keep going forward. Any other thoughts around the hiring process, hiring the right employees and the struggles that people are going through?
I brought this up in one or two, I can't remember which one now, of our show, but also, do treat the employees well. Have a wellness plan. Instead of happy hours, have wellness hours. That's what I would just also throw in there. Be part of the impact for the wellness of the world, and teach people how to deal with, not numb problems. That's my soapbox.
Well, I'm gonna ask you to stay up on that soapbox. Okay. I want to know, because a wellness plan means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So, and we see wellness plans a lot in corporate world, but small business world, not so much, unless it's in that industry. right? If it's in the wellness industry, we tend to see it more because
Sure.
honestly, how can they sell it if they don't
Yeah, gotta walk
live
the
it,
walk.
right? You got to walk the walk. So, for all of the companies that are not in the health and wellness arena, where do you start? I mean, there's like so much out there. What has impact, and what would you do to just start a program like that?
Mhm. I would, if it's a people coming into the office, I would have one more like stand up meetings instead of long meetings, right? Those 30-minute meetings, have stand up meetings where you're just boom, 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 getting stuff done, and then also share with your employees like, hey, there is healthy snacks and healthy this in there. Yes, we want you to take a lunch break because it is good for you. Get sun on your face, go outside. um uh you know Back in the startup days of technology in Silly Valley, as you said, we used to have sleep rooms where people would go and sleep. I think that Google and Facebook still have those. Now they're like fancy tech pods that you get to rejuvenate your skin and all that stuff. But allow people to perhaps meditate. um, um, One of the things, the easiest things to implement, is take a meeting while you're walking, and instead of being in front of your computer all the time. So perhaps you share with your employees, or hey, like, hey, okay, we're all going to go for a walk. Maybe we're in all different areas or whatever, but like, you can be on the phone and go for a walk while we're talking, because that spawns creativity, that really helps focus. Those are all of those things I just mentioned, except for like healthy food and drinks, are free. So it doesn't hurt the bottom
Hmm.
line. It's only going to help raise the bottom line, because people are going to be more creative. Um, I mean, there's so many other things to do, but I think that that's the easiest to start with.
Okay. Once we've started there, let's say we're doing that, but I want to be a little bit more intentional about it, right?
Okay.
Is there like consultants that work with doing this, or a place I can go that has a preset program, or can, put a program together for me as a CEO? Because I'm, you know, I'm a business guy. Health and wellness isn't my expertise, but I understand the uh, the need for it.
Mhm.
Where do I go from there?
Yeah, there absolutely are consultants. There's holistic health clubs where, instead of your Western medicine type of healthcare, that you can get healthcare that is more East meets West, where you're not feeding yourself a ton of pharmaceutical drugs, how to deal with things, breathing techniques, workshops, massages, acupuncture, blood tests, different tests to feel better. There's red light therapy. I mean, there's so many different things. Um, I used to work for a holistic health company. I used to consult for them, and we would go out, and like Google was a client of ours, and Google asked us to come in, and we actually built. We brought in all these little containers and cactus and different stuff, where people were being we were outside, and they were just creating their own little like cactus thing that they could put on their desk afterwards. There's just spawning creativity, helping things like that, getting people outside.
Awesome, awesome. So one of my clients, I have a doctor in Scotland who is
Mhm.
putting together a health clinic care, starting with the acupuncture and kind of building out services from there. I'm sure you're familiar with Orange County. What is it? The Orange County Holistic Medicine Center. Is that what it is?
Okay. Yeah.
Are you familiar? Because I know you were down there, so I was.
Yeah.
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 So I was there probably 6 months ago,
Mhm.
looking at their program, and it's amazing what they do. Now they focus very specifically on cancer patients and
Mhm.
patients going through extreme trauma. So they do everything from O2 baths to some, some of the psilocybin studies going on are happening there. So there's just so many avenues from that standpoint. It's interesting. Things are going definitely a different way. And I think you're right. Starting easy is the best way to go. And then, but that all goes to vision, mission, and values again, is to, how do you look at your employees? And that's just another piece of buy-in. So doing these things can help you find better employees and keep the ones that you have. Right.
Yeah.
So nice. Very good.
Because if people know that you care, then they say loyalty is dead. However, it's a two-way street is what it is. If an employee feels like, I'm back to asset and cost accounting, if I'm a cost versus an asset, well, then I'm just looking for more money elsewhere, since that's how you're looking at me. So, but if I'm an asset and you care about my well-being, I'm more likely to stay as well.
Yeah, I like to say that loyalty isn't dead, it's just been revisioned. So they took that one-way street and made it a two-way street. So it's well, most companies, hopefully. That may be a hopeful statement. So that's awesome. I think we covered everything that we could cover on that. I'm pretty excited about today. How'd you feel about today?
Feel good about it.
Yeah.
It's always nice to be here with you, and I love when you throw me them curveballs, and I'm like, oh,
I'm sure.
Oh gosh.
I'm probably going to get a phone call 10 minutes after this.
No, I actually, I love it. It keeps me on my toes, and it also brings back a flood of memories that perhaps I just haven't brought up for a while. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you, Paul, very much, and I appreciate the audience. Thanks for being here. Again, send us any questions.
Sounds good. Next time, we are going to get knee deep into revenue generation. So no matter what size of company, what kind of company that you have, we're going to talk about some things and answer some questions and see if we can create a wave of increased revenue for the people that are listening to this show. So, yeah. All right. Well, been great talking to you as usual. And
thank you.
Everyone, have a great day. Thank you for joining the Dani and Paul Show.
Till next time. Bye-bye.